Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you happen to be listening to this review of how to approach the short answer section. The purpose of this is to kind of give you an overview of the short answer section of how to answer it. My name is Michael Yacht, and I have been working with the short answer section ever since it was introduced to the AP exam in 2015. And I am currently a ETL for the short answer section. I kind of had quite a few years of experience with this section, and hopefully I'm going to be able to help you out in scoring well on the AP US History exam. So the short answer section itself is a section that is 9 questions that's kind of disguised as 3. And what I mean by that is that you're going to see 3 questions that you're going to have to answer. But in answering those, you are going to actually have ABC, 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 which equals 9 questions. So you'll kind of see how that works. I'm trying to, sorry for the delay. I'm trying to get this. That's what I'm trying to get right there. A little, the ability to actually move the slide forward and be able to point at things. All right, so 20% of your test score for the short answer section is the SAQ section. I think this section will probably separate the 3s, 4s, and 5s, and I just think because of time, you need to move. The purpose is not to fill the answer document that you will see. The purpose is to answer the question, ATQ. There's 3 questions with 3 parts each, A, B, and C. I'll go through and explain those. Your responses should be 3 sentences each. When you actually approach and get to the test, I'll sort of accept 2 sentences, and I'll explain that later, but I'm looking for 3 sentences each, and I'll kind of explain how to approach that. These are not essays. Please do not put in thesis statements. You don't need to have a thesis statement in this particular section of the test, okay? So no thesis statements. Each of your 3, this is the math wonkiness for you, those of you math geeks out there. If you leave a section of this test blank, like you leave A and ABC blank, you've just lost 7%, just short of 7% of your overall AP score. Make something up, guess, take a shot. I'm hoping by the time you get to the end of our curriculum, or as we're heading in April towards the May test, that you will have a good understanding of the content and that you'll be able to answer most every one of the questions on the SAQ section. But the secret is not to leave blanks. Blanks just, it's easy for me to score. It's a 0 or a non-response. And so please put something down. Manage your time well, because time matters. Not only does time matter for the questions, in other words, they're going to ask you probably to identify things that are happening within a certain time period, but also the time in this section, I think, is very tight. It's only 40 minutes, and so you need to move. Answer all the questions, like I will explain to you. Take a shot, take a guess. Label each. I think that every student should label their questions A, B, and C. It makes it so much easier for the reader. You want to make it as easy as possible for the reader to go, oh, A, here's your answer, point. B, here's your answer, point. C, here's your answer, point. Make it so simple for the reader. I'm not opposed to writing in paragraph form. Okay, so I am at Rouse High School. I'm opposed to it. But those of you that would like to do, as you can see on that slide, it says, has the A, B, and C crossed out? If you cross something out on the AP exam, it cannot count for you or against you. So we're trained as AP readers to allow you, if you were to answer, put an answer into, let's say you answered A and B in A, and then B was wrong, I still would give you the 2 points. Now, I'm going to warn you, at Rouse High School, I wouldn't give you the 2 points. I have a higher standard than what happens at the reading. But I just want you to know, you need to label these, okay? Put A, B, and C. You have 40 minutes to complete this section. This section will come right after the multiple choice section on the day of the test. So you'll take the multiple choice section, 55 questions, 55 minutes, and then you will take this section. Make sure that you move, Okay, I'll give you a test strategy once we get towards the end of this section to kind of give you an idea how I would approach it if I was taking the test. So SAQ number 1. Okay, the format for SAQ number 1, notice it's a secondary source, and notice it's periods 3 through 8, 1754 to 1980. You'll get used to me probably throughout the school year talking about periods 3 through 8, because not only is 3 through 8 part of the DBQ time period, but it's SAQ number 1 and SAQ number 2. 1754 to 1980 is the French and Indian War all the way through Jimmy Carter. Okay, so understand you're going to see some type of secondary source. What they have been doing is they've been giving you 2 authors, and you're responsible for trying to figure out the difference between the 2 authors' point of view, and I'll kind of show you examples of that. The format or approach for this is I would read the questions first. Okay, look at A, B, and C and see what the College Board is asking you to do, so you know what you're looking for. Then read both passages. Okay, it might be one passage. It has not been one passage yet. From 2017, the last of the redesign, all the way to 2022, it hasn't been it hasn't been just one passage. It might. I've seen it, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. So on all the operational tests, the ones that most of the students take, it's been 2 passages. Okay, one author is saying one thing about a particular historical event, and another author is taking a different point of view on a certain historical event, and you have to determine what each author is saying about that historical event. Okay. Then in A, what I would like you to do, as it says there, you're going to have a 3-sentence answer. The first sentence is going to use author A. You're going to tell me what is the point of view of author A. Okay, and then the second sentence is what is the point of view of author B. And then you're going to have what I call the therefore statement. You are then going to say, therefore, this is how the point of view of author A and author B is different. It might be similar. They might be asking you similarities, but since 2017, it's been differences. So we'll kind of stick with that. We're going to be practicing that. I'll try to find some similarities for you, and I will give you some similarities. But for the most part, you're going to be given an example where you're going to see author, the first author take one perspective and the second author take a different perspective. So I need one sentence. The first sentence of your SAQ number 1 should be, what is author A talking about? What's the point of view of author A? And then the second sentence within A is, what does the second author say about that event? And then your third sentence on SAQ number 1 is making sure that you are explaining what's the difference between the 2 authors' point of view. Okay. Then you get to question B. Question B and question C are you are going to be expected to link an event or development during the time period with the first author. So that's what B is going to ask you. And they're going to give you a time period. And this is where we're going to use the A strategy. When you use the A strategy, you are actually going to answer the question with specific content knowledge. That's the A. So give me an answer. What is the first author saying about the event? Okay, so a piece of evidence that's going to help support that point of view. Then cite that specific factual evidence to try to answer the question. So you're giving more detail, more context of what is going on that's helping to support that answer. Then the payoff pitch, the third sentence in your answer on using the for B and C is you're going to explain how that evidence proves the assertion. Okay, use your therefore. So you start off with a therefore statement. Therefore, this is how this piece of outside evidence helps to support the first author's point of view. And please name the author. Okay, put the author's name into your answer so the reader knows which author you are actually signifying. Then what you're going to have to do in C is you're going to have to do the exact same thing that you did in B, except for you're doing it for the second author. Okay, so notice what you're doing in A. You're actually telling me 2 sentences of the different, 2 sentences showing me the point of view of the authors, and then the third sentence is your therefore statement. Therefore, this is the difference between the 2 authors. Then in B, You got to bring in a piece of outside evidence that's within the time period of the question, and then you got to be able to use that information to show me how that helps to support the first author. Do the exact same thing for C because you're doing it for the second author. Stay in the box. What do I mean by stay in the box? You're going to be given a answer document that has 26 lines to it. The purpose of this is not to fill the box. It really is not. The purpose of this is to answer the question. If you go 3 sentences, 3 sentences, 3 sentences, maybe that's like, I don't know, 12 lines, whatever it's going to take you. You don't need to fill the box in order to get all 3 points. You just need to answer the questions. That will get you all 3 points. Notice they are watermarked Q1, Q2, Q3, or 4. I will give you suggestions on how you should answer these or what order you should do answer these. But if I could give you just a point of order here, when you are answering question 3 or 4, please make sure that you bubble in either that you are answering question 3 or you are answering question 4. Don't answer both. If you answer both, the College Board's only going to score your first answer. I've seen it. I've seen where students have answered both questions, gotten a 0 on the first one, gotten a couple of points on the second one. I can't give them a couple of points. I can only give them a 0 because they answered. I only can score the question that they answered first in that box correctly. Okay, I can't give you, like points because you answered the other question. So stay in the box. Okay, don't write outside the box. This is an example of an SAQ number 1. So what I would like you to do is push pause on the recording, read the questions, then read the stimulus, and then I will show you how I answered this. So go ahead and do that. Okay, hopefully you've put it on pause. Let me show you how I answer this. So if you're taking a look at this, Crane in this particular excerpt is saying, the question is, what's the difference between Crane and Zagari's historical interpretation of the impact, the immediate impact of the American Revolution on women? Well, Crane's saying there wasn't any. There really was not a great impact that the American Revolution made on women, where Zagari differs. Zagari says, no, yes, there is. Okay, so how did I write that? Put it on pause and look through it. So it just says, Professor Crane saw the American Revolution not as a radical change, and Professor Zagari, the American Revolution improved the social and status and social influence of women. Okay, therefore, notice what I have the how. Therefore, Professor Crane thought the American Revolution did nothing, and Professor Zagari thought the American Revolution had a measurable good effect. Point. Okay, I get a point for that because I told the reader what is the point of view of the first author, the second author, and what's the difference. Okay, then you are going to be expected to bring in a piece of outside evidence. Notice the time period on this particular question is 1765 to 1800. So they want you to go from the Stamp Act, which is 1765, all the way through John Quincy Adams' presidency. Okay, and so what I decided to do is I went with the number 1 answer in 2019, whenever this question was, and I said the most students wrote the denial of suffrage rights. So if you put it on pause really quickly, you'll be able to read it. But if you notice what I did, suffrage rights were denied. I brought up John Adams goes to Philadelphia to help to write the Declaration of Independence. Abigail Adams says, hey, remember the ladies. They don't remember the ladies, and of course, suffrage rights are not going to be granted. That shows a piece of outside evidence that supports Crane's point of view. See, and it's within the time period. Now, the next one is for Zagari. I chose Republican motherhood. So you can choose Republican motherhood, and hopefully you know what that is, and we kind of studied that a little bit in class, but this is going to give women almost like a boost in their social status, okay, where they're going to teach the ideals of the American Revolution to their children. And so the therefore statement is, therefore, Republican motherhood was considered a custodian of civic virtue, responsible for upholding the morality of her husband and children, and this shows an increase in her status. Okay, so it kind of gives you an idea of how to answer an SAQ number 1. Notice that B and C are time periods. It seems like they're always going to be time periods, so be prepared to stay within the time period. Always stay within the time period. Don't go outside the time period by a year. Okay, stay within the time period with your answer. The one thing I will say concerning this one is Republican motherhood could have been used for Crane and Zagari. Okay, sometimes you might be able to, it's for that special answer to where if you're good enough on the day of the test that you can come up with the same answer but use it a different way on both answers, you'd be able to get credit, because Republican motherhood for Crane is going to keep women in the household. It's going to keep women in the domestic sphere. And so that really doesn't improve their status. And you could argue that. Then turn around and argue the same point. Republican motherhood is going to increase their status by allowing them to become the keepers of the ideals of the American Revolution. If you can come up with that on the day of the test, awesome. That is, I only suggest that if you got a good one. Okay, don't try to wing it on the day of the test by throwing it in, because most students screw it up. Okay, try to bring up 2 different examples and it'll be a little bit easier. Hopefully that helps to answer SAQ number 1. For SAQ number 2, sorry about this, where it's popping up and it's not popping up, and then you go back and correct that. For SAQ number 2, you're going to see a primary source. You're going to see a text and or visual source. Okay. Notice the period is still period 3 through 8, 1754 to 1980, French and Indian War all the way through, Jimmy Carter. Again, read the questions first. Keep the historical context in mind always on these questions. What's going on during the time period? Okay. Then read the text or view the document and begin to answer the questions. I think SAQ number 2 is a little bit easier than SAQ number 1. Okay, because a lot of time it has been content, a lot of time it has been images, not in 2022, but it has been images. Okay, and you're going to use the ACE strategy for this. Okay, making sure you have the therefore statement. So an example of this, of course, stay in the box. An example of this is from 2019. So put it on pause, read through the question. Okay, so as you're looking at this image, March of Destiny, Kentucky, California, people are moving out west. It looks great out west and stuff like that. A says briefly describe one historical perspective expressed in the image. If you can't figure out that this is really talking about manifest destiny and stuff like that, I have failed you as a U.S. history teacher, because it says March of Destiny right there. So you can talk about manifest destiny. But notice what B does. B and C are a little bit different in what's going on. Briefly explain how one specific event or development in the period from 1800 to 1850 contributed to this image. So you got to name something between 1800 and 1850 that's going to lead to us moving out west, trying to achieve manifest destiny. There's many things that you can name, okay? And then C, briefly explain one specific historical effect in the period from 1844 to 1890. Notice it allows you to go from 1844 all the way through 1890. So really that's kind of like Polk and his administration all the way up through. There's a reason that 1890 is sitting there. 1890 is considered, that is Wounded Knee. That is considered kind of the closing of the frontier. That is the last major American Indian battle that we are going to have in the United States. And so from that point forward, we are now worrying about international events and not manifest destiny has been achieved. The closing of the frontier has been achieved by 1890, quote. Okay. So in answering this, you're going to, there's manifest destiny. Okay. So put it on pause, read through it. Okay. Notice what I say. I give an example, manifest destiny. I then explain, see, what does that example mean? Then I give the therefore statement. Therefore, these views associated with manifest destiny, the westward expansion of the United States, with economic progress, social and geographic mobility, religious mission, and ideas of American superiority. Okay, that's the perspective the artist is giving. Okay, so for B, notice it's between 1800 and 1850. I chose Louisiana Purchase. There's many other different things that you could possibly choose, but the Louisiana Purchase in 1803 allowed for the opening of the frontier and westward expansion, so it's going to be huge. Okay, and you can put it on pause and read through that example. And then finally, what I'm going to do here in C is I'm going to talk about one effect. Well, one of the effects of westward expansion is we're going to have an expansion of slavery, and we're going to have arguments over it. One of the arguments is going to come from the Kansas-Nebraska Act. So that's what I talked about. Okay. That's what you got to be able to do on an SAQ number 2. Is literally you're answering a question, but they're giving you a primary source. By the time you take the test, hopefully we will have gone through a lot of primary sources, and you'll be able to do this with any primary source, no matter if it's a text-based source or a cartoon. You'll be able to answer these questions. Okay. If you have any questions, please make sure that you come in and ask me. This is an example of 2022. The only reason I'm showing you this is on the 2022 test, I felt that one of the reasons that the results of the test were not that good. The pass rate for 2022 was 48% of the kids that took it passed it. That's not really that good. Okay. Normally it's like 50-some%. Here at Rouse is much higher. Okay. I actually had 80%, just saying. But this one here, I think it's a good question, but notice how long the excerpt is. I think it took students more time to read this one. So be prepared. You got to be able to read through these rather quickly and be able to answer the question. Okay. Read the question first, then go find the answer. Okay. Go figure out the answer. Notice on B and C, they gave the kids a time period. Okay. Briefly explain one historical event or development between 1783 and 1854 that led to the developments that Langston is talking about, John Langston is talking about, and tell me something that is, notice what they're asking you, resulted or an effect of this. Almost very similar to what you just saw in the cartoon, you're now seeing it in a text, okay? You have to read these texts. You got to slow down. I'm going to give you a different strategy when it comes to the multiple choice test, but you got to slow down. If they give you a text-based document, slow down and read it because you're answering questions about it and you got to write it out. Okay, that's SAQ number 2. SAQ number 3, format for SAQ number 3. Notice it is 2 possible questions. You're either going to have a question that I call the early question, 1491 to 1877, or you're going to have the late question, which is 1865 to the present. Okay, 1491 to 1877 means pre-Columbian all the way through Reconstruction. And number 4 is the Gilded Age to the present. To the present, I don't know what the present means. I know the farthest forward that we're probably going to see on our test is 2003. Okay, up through Iraq. I don't think we're going to see any of these SAQs that are going to be the War on Terror. I just don't. Could be, but I don't think so. I think maybe we'll get to the 2000s. Like up to the year 2000, but I just don't think we'll get into the War on Terror. That being said, make sure you use the correct SAQ page. The format for this is simple. It's the ACE strategy. So make sure that you use the ACE strategy and use your therefore statement. Okay, this is just a content-based question. I like these questions. We're going to practice the crap out of these questions. Okay, I need to practice SAQ number 1s, but we're going to practice crap out of these because it's just easy to look at. So as an example of this, this might look really familiar. Those of you that did your summer assignment, this is a summer assignment 1. So in answering the summer assignment 1, notice what A says, briefly explain one example of how contact between Native Americans and Europeans brought changes to Native American societies between 1492 and 1700. Then you got to give a second one between 1492 and 1700. Notice they want you to stop at 1700. If you go into the French and Indian War, you are outside the time period. Okay. Then briefly explain one example of how Native American societies resisted change brought by contact. So how did they resist during the same time period? Okay. So here's my answer to A, the horse, of course. Okay. Therefore, mobility will cause the Indians to hunt and gather in a much larger radius, opening up opportunities to help their nation survive. Okay, the horse, introduction by the Spanish. Then, of course, the biggest impact that's going to happen is disease. Okay, so if you want to put these on pause and read through these, it's a good idea. So you have an idea of what I'm writing, but disease is my answer. As a reader, as soon as I see disease, I'm just saying, please explain it. What did it do? Oh, it devastated and killed 90% of the American Indians that are going to die because post-contact or after contact are going to die from disease, not warfare disease. Okay, 90%. And then finally, you just have to be able to name one way they resisted. And so you got to figure out one American Indian War between 1492 and 1700. Okay, Powhatan, that's the one that I'm going to use here. You can use Pequot, you can use King Philip's War, you can use Pueblo Revolt. There's plenty of them that you could possibly use. Can't use French Indian War, can't use Pontiac's Rebellion. They're all outside the time period, all past 1700. Stay within the time period. Okay? Here's my strategy for you. I think you should, on the day of the test, you should answer question 3 or 4 first. Put points on the board. When you're thinking about passing this exam, okay, you got to get at least 50% on all the sections of the test to at least get a 3. Well, to get 50% on this section of the test, you got to get at least 5 right. Well, if you can put 3 on the board right here, how cool is that? You want to pick one of those, either question 3 or question 4, that you're going to get 2 or 3. Which one of those 2 questions are you going to get 2 or 3? Answer that one first. Then go to question number 1. I think you should answer A. I think all of my students, by the time they head to the test, they should be able to answer A. Give me the point of view of the author, give me the second point of view of the second author, and tell me the difference. Come on, you should be able to do that. Then for B and C, you're going to look at B and C, and you're going to, can you think of a piece of outside evidence that helps support either one of the authors? Yes, use the A strategy and do it. If you can't think, ready? Listen to me. If you can't think of a piece of outside evidence that helps to show the point of view of either one of the authors within 30 seconds of reading B and C, then go to question 2. Okay, go to SAQ number 2, answer SAQ number 2, come back to B and C and see if it's come to you. If it hasn't come to you, make something up. Okay, reword the question and make something up. I give you permission. Don't leave this blank on the day of the test. Make me as a reader think about what's going on. They give you a time period. Use your historical context clues to give me something within that time period that maybe helped to answer the question. I hope this was helpful for you. This is just my laid out strategy that's just crazy. So all the stuff that I just got done talking about, this is what it looks like. Okay. I do wish you the very best on this section. It is probably one of the most difficult sections on the test, and it does really separate 2s, 3s, 4s. Okay. But if you have any questions or concerns or clarifications, please come in before school, after school, or email me, and I will try to get back to you as quick as possible. Good luck on the AP US History exam.